What's up, guys? Today I want to talk to you about these designer drugs that you've probably heard of. Hopefully you have not tried. We're going to talk about some of the risks involved, some of the chemistry, etc. And so, the group I want to talk about are the cathinones. I think that's how you pronounce it. They're derived from the khat plant, Khat, which is, I believe, indigenous somewhere in Africa in the Middle East area. Um, and people would chew on the leaves. They've been doing that for, I guess, thousands of years would be my probably for whatever they needed it for. I don't know, to give them energy or to help with depression or something. Who knows? But anyway, and so basically, some very astute chemists they figured out how to synthesize the I won't say medicinal properties. I'll say the other properties, right? The properties that basically give you euphoria and give you a high, and the chemical structure very similar to amphetamines and very similar to dopamine, and so basically that's what people derive, the high from um, in these products. Now, you know what these products are because they kind of got popular in the early 2000s, known as bath salts, and they were legal for a long time. I actually had a patient who had a gas station, and man, he made a lot of money selling bath salts, and he didn't start coming to see me until after it was illegal, and I think he was actually got into some legal issues too from it. But anyway, you know, they would get labeled, and you'll see this also. They'll be sold as plant food, and it'll say on there not for human consumption. I've even heard of it being used as like different type of cleaners and just different stuff, so that it can kind of escape the legal side a little bit, so it can kind of be sold in places. I don't know exactly how prevalent it is in Mississippi anymore, but it's still out there. And of course, now with the people order stuff online, and so with the dark web, people are ordering all kinds of drugs, which is crazy. And I've got a friend who works as an investigator for the post office, man, and I'm going to tell you, if you're ordering drugs online, you're going to get caught, because that dude is a smart guy, and he is figuring stuff out. He can just about look at the type of package and the address, where it's coming from and who it's going to, and he can tell you if it's got something illegal in it. Anyway, so just because you haven't been caught in the past doesn't mean you're not going to get caught in the past. Get caught in the future. So, all right. Anyway, back to our story. So, we got our bath salts, right? And now these things are highly addictive and dangerous. And some of the medical problems we see are cardiac issues, hypertension, tachycardia. We see anxiety, sleeplessness, hallucinations, and paranoia. And then this kind of leads to the other derivative of these cathinones, and that's flocka. All right, and you've heard of this flocka stuff because, man, these people have these crazy, bizarre episodes where they just go completely, basically berserk, and obviously the flocka is not as prevalent here as the bath salts derivative, which I think is I'm going blank now. Is it MDPV? Yeah, MDPV, I believe is the other term for it. So anyway, so these are very strong stimulants. They can cause some severe issues, tachycardia, hypertension, hyperthermia, which is where your body temperature goes high. It's almost like you have heat stroke, and your muscles can start to break down. You can go into renal failure. So it's not just It's not just some guy going completely crazy and committing suicide or trying to eat somebody's face or whatever. I mean, people are dying from other medical issues with these drugs. And so they cause this, huge dopamine influx in the brain, and are highly addictive. And you just need to stay away. So that condition, though, where people become extremely delirious and strange, is called excited delirium. And it's very dangerous. And so sometimes, as doctors, will actually sedate people enough, keep them in an ICU and basically knock them unconscious with other medications until that stuff's out of their system, because they're so paranoid and psychotic that it's the only thing, to keep them safe that can be done. So, another reason these things are so doggone dangerous is because a lot of people think of them as safe because you can get them, used to, you could buy them legally, or, you think of them being, developed by some chemist somewhere, and not your Uncle Larry, in the trailer park next door. So you think of it as being cleaner, but it's not, man. It's just as dangerous as meth. And you gotta extrapolate this knowledge to other designer drugs. All right, just because it's made in a lab does not make it safe. And I'll probably do something on synthetic cannabinoids in the future, and we'll talk about the risk of those as well. And so, I miss those good old days where drugs were simple, right? You had your marijuana, your cocaine, your heroin, LSD. Not that they were safe, but it was just a different world. And now, just the chemists are coming up with them quicker than we can figure out what to do about them. So I do want to give some quick credit. A lot of my information came from a lecture at the American Academy of Addiction Psychiatry. I'm going to say these guys' names, but I may mess them up. But more than likely they're not watching this. So Dr. Cornell Stanshew, Dr. Thomas Penders, Dr. Jonathan Lee, and Dr. Petros Lavunas. Guys doing amazing work, kind of at the forefront of addiction psychiatry. So props to them. Maybe this was helpful, maybe not. Just remember, just because something's pure doesn't mean it's not pure death.